Hello, Simon. Thank you very much for joining us today. A lot of people associate piracy with online piracy. Could you explain a little bit about the kinds of work that you're doing in the real world?
I run the FCPA, the Film Content Protection Agency. We focus very much on source piracy, so camcording essentially, offenders obtaining the source content. So our remit is very much on preventing that from cinemas in the UK and Ireland, and also detecting it when it happens. We see about 90% of new film content, pirated content, is literally shot from a cinema in the world somewhere and then uploaded and distributed and edited and enhanced. So our focus is on very much trying to stop that coming from a UK or Irish source. Piracy has evolved and it's diversified over the years. There's no doubt about that. If we turn the clocks back, then pirate films tend to be like this, cellophane wrapped DVDRs mainly, sold on markets or by someone in a pub. That was quite typical. Before that, we had obviously VHS tapes, didn't we? If we go back to the 1980s, I think E.T. was the first globally pirated film, and that was on a VHS tape. So DVDs followed, box sets. This is a pirated box set, which you can see, it's really difficult to distinguish from the genuine article. You can buy those online on online marketplaces, and they look as good as the real thing. Blu-rays are exactly the same. There's a nice Blu-ray box set, the pirated version. Again, would you know the difference? Probably not. Very difficult from just a visual inspection. So there's been this progression in line with technology and how we as consumers watch films. Then it went online. So we looked at the torrent sites and the online streaming sites that offered particularly pirated content. Then came along ISDs, illicit streaming devices like this one. This is a Firecube, and some of these aren't illegal, but they can be, and they're illegal if they're preloaded with certain apps and add-ons, which some of them are, and people knowingly buy them preloaded, and that means they can access pirated content very easily. So, and this is all in the matter of a few years, and now we're on to streaming sites, aren't we? So what we're saying really over the years is piracy's moved from ripping VHS tapes to sharing passwords for streaming sites, and that evolution has happened over the space of only a few years. So we don't know what's next, do we? But as I said, ultimately from our perspective, the big problem is a lot of the content, no matter how you watch it, is still camcorded. If you looked at the content you can access on one of these Firecubes, it'd still be 90% camcorded footage, and that's where we focus very much on tackling piracy at source to stop that content being available. And obviously, we can only do that in terms of the UK and Ireland, not globally. If I turn the clock back 10 or more years, we were looking at offenders who are using big bulky camcorders sometimes even on tripods in cinemas. Nowadays, things like this, your old, the smartphone is the preferred device. We have a pretty good relationship with all the cinemas in the UK and Ireland. They do report incidents to us. We encourage that, and we investigate those cases afterwards. Some do involve the police. Some literally mean that those customers are ejected. The more serious side for us than the what we would say is the high impact side are what we call the proven cams. Because of developments in technology, film forensics have been brilliant for us over the last few years, whereby a pirated version found online or on a DVD or a Blu-ray can be traced back to the cinema in which it was recorded by the offender. So not only do we determine the cinema, but it also will give us a time and date stamp, so we can actually see exactly on which day, at which time, and which screen that offender obtained the content, and then we can launch an investigation. We've got a good proven track record of actually then identifying the offenders and getting them arrested or prosecuted later on. So the internet release groups who release the films their desire is to have cameras in each territory, so that looking at release patterns, they want to have someone in a territory where the film's going to be released first or early, so they can target it, get it even before it's been released in other countries. So that's where the damage to the industry comes in, where they can release something ahead of theatrical release in other territories. It's very organised, it's very driven, they're incentivised, they're definitely paid to do this, the cameras. We've seen a definite link in the last couple of years in the UK to online gambling sites. Nearly all of the cams that have come from UK cinemas have had what we call burn-ins. And a burn-in is an advertising banner that will come across the film. We've seen this general trend where 3 big Russian casino sites have appeared on burn-ins on all of the UK cams. And I think I saw a statistic the other day where about 600, I think it was 670 pirated films globally have in the last, in 2019 had similar characteristics.
Are you in coordination with other law enforcement agencies globally?
We work very closely with the MPA, and obviously they've got anti-piracy offices globally. So we work very closely with them and their office in Brussels, in particularly, on sharing intelligence and information. But I suppose we're quite fortunate in the UK because our programme is sort of unprecedented globally. It's quite unique. We've been doing this since 2006, and a lot of countries don't really have the equivalent of what we offer. We sort of lead the way a little bit, I suppose. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, a lot of things we do and a lot of the initiatives we do, they don't do in other countries. And one example of that would be a reward scheme, which we've been doing now since 2006. I think we're one of the few territories in the world that offers a financial incentive to cinema staff, you know, to be vigilant, to be aware, which they do anyway, but we offer an incentive to actually give them a cash reward should they catch somebody recording film content in the cinema. And that's a very effective part of their programme, where we see a lot of really good work by our cinema staff in just their enhanced vigilance and awareness. Consumer confusion, I think we call it, you know, it's a serious issue. And I think the average internet user still cannot differentiate between legal and illegal. And unfortunately, you know, devices like this make that really difficult because they think if it's available and it's on the internet, surely it's legal, and especially if they're maybe paying for it through a subscription. But that's the misconception, isn't it? It's not always legal just because they're paying for it. It's often illegal, and that is a big worry, I think, for the industry. This confusion from consumers as to how they identify what's right and what's wrong, and probably especially with the younger generation. You know, if it's there and it's available, then why not consume it? That's often their sort of approach to these things.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Pleasure.